What?
What are you guys doing up here? I was leading the pack for about 5 minutes.
Now we should move. Yeah, maybe we should move. Right, Mel? Hey, you guys, let's move. The reveal.
Look, 10 a.m. they all wake up. Hey, Tim, you want to take a show them the bell?
Yeah.
Hey, Clem. Oh, it ruined her. Hey. Clem, walk over. You guys out here. Did you see this, Clem? Oh, get on.
Have a seat, Clem.
Have a seat.
Try it out.
We're walking down the Black Series.
So we're here for a special occasion.
So that's why you guys wouldn't let me go up the other side.
That's why John had to come at 7:30 this morning. Take the computer.
Oh, right. Linda, we thought we lost you again.
You did lose me.
Hey, that's a nice bench. This must be Phil's idea. Can't take credit for it. I'm glad you got it. Phil? Oh, everybody over here. Yeah. How about you stretch out for the sex class? I wonder if 20 people showed up.
Returning the course from 3 years ago is what we call it. Yeah.
So were you in front?
I think he showed up.
I was late.
Okay, we are here. Welcome, Clem. Thank you all very much for coming to celebrate. And I was thinking of this the other day. Mark Vomisel, who many of you know, was named first citizen this year by the Chamber of Commerce. Next year it should be Clem Lacava, first citizen.
We can all
One
vote.
thing, you'd have to wear a tie, though. I don't have a tie. Anyway, we're here to celebrate Clem for all his good work promoting trail running and for his exhaustive work since he's retired and even before, now making McDonald Forest trails, keeping the brush off and so forth and so on, and doing all these wonderful things. And I think that it's classic that Clem would clear Dimple Hill in preparation for the bench. Named after him, and it occurred to me that doing this is sort of like a guy making his own coffin. Good job, Clem.
There's a false lid on that bench.
I want to say just a couple of other things that I think that go unheralded, and one of them is Clem's longtime association with the research forest people, his liaison, and a person who sometimes isn't noted for his extended realm of diplomacy. Clem has been a diplomat exemplar in his association with research forest, and they thank you very much for that. Do you have, where's Gabby? Yes. You have, let me read a statement. This is from Ryan Brown, who's the recreation manager for Research Forest, and she sent this to Gabriella and I yesterday. I wish I could be here to personally honor Clem today, so I'm sending along my appreciation instead. One of my very, very favorite things about Clem is the sparkle that comes into his eye when he starts to talk about a particularly challenging patch of blackberries or a grove of poison oak, and the massive amount of damage that he caused to it with his weed whacker. I've never known anyone else who gets so much personal satisfaction out of brushing trails, viewpoints, and parking areas as Clem. When someone thanks him for his work, his answer is extremely modest. He doesn't think what he does is a very big deal. Just something he likes to do because he loves the trail and the forest. Well, Clem, we think, Ryan says, that what you do is a big deal. We are extremely lucky on the college forest to have a small group of dedicated individuals willing to put up with stickers, bees, heat, cold, and lots of wet to keep our trails open and in great shape. However, Clem has not only worked to fight back the ever-present brush, to allow runners, hikers to enjoy our beautiful trails, but he also represents the running community through his service to the Forest Recreation Advisory Committee and recent College Forests Recreation Collaborative. So that's very nice, and his promotion of successful races goes beyond that. Clem is truly a community leader, someone who pulls people together. This bench is the perfect example of that. This bench is not a purchase, it was a fundraising effort. The fact that a group of people appreciated Clem enough to get out their checkbooks and contribute toward a common goal of putting this bench out here in his honor. Anyway, that says hello. So she concludes, Clem, thank you for all of your hard work and for being a positive presence that holds the community, forest, and forest people together. So that said, I want to add just one final note about Clem's work in organizing the McDonald Forest 50K. I've helped out several years and ran it 5 times myself. But the first year of the run kind of speaks to Clem's appetite for detail, for making sure everything is done right. And I was the aid station here at the top of Dimple Hill with my pickup, where I had supplies, water, and so forth, and people came through. And then towards the end of the run, I was sort of a roving person. There was no sweep that year. And anyway, I trailed through the Lewisburg saddle, heading back to the cabin, and the aid station table had been taken down there, and I headed up the hill to Vineyard Mountain, and I'm about halfway down to where you turn up to Peavey, and here's 2 guys walking along the road, just talking to each other, you know, hikers. They had race numbers on. It's getting awfully late, and I had visions of the cabin closing down, and so I was a little bit upset, so I told these guys, don't go up the hill to Peavey Peak, just go to the 4 corners and go down the road to the cabin, which they did. I get down there and I tell Clem my story, and he gives me hell for telling these guys go off the trail. Okay, Ken?
I could have finished already.
So Bill told you stuff that other people said about Clem, but I'm going to tell you stuff in Clem's own words. I have a bunch of, Scott and I like to collect old emails from Clem. So they're a little bit humorous sometimes. So Clem gave up the race and decided to retire for the 3rd or 4th time from race directing in 2005. And in 2005, when he did his last 50K race directing, he wrote an article for ultra running. And so I found out, he said, the last paragraph of it, he says, this young race director is retiring from race directing ultramarathons after 10 years. It's been such an honor to race direct this race in this beautiful forest right next to the town I live in. I retire knowing that I had a part, along with all the other dedicated race directors in the Northwest, creating enthusiasm for the sport in this region of the country where we live. We're very fortunate to have so many beautiful trails to run on, and the success of the McDonald Forest race could not have happened without so many volunteers who have spent so many years helping me organize this race, along with the support from so many race directors in the Northwest. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure to know so many of you Northwest ultra runners. I'm looking forward to many fun times along the trails with all of you. Pretty good. So then we tried to take the race over, and I think at first Clem didn't really. We thought at first that Clem really didn't want the race to continue on, But then later on, after a couple of years of stupidity, we realized that it really was because he didn't want us to go through all the crap that he had gone through for all those years. And so he said, I know you're having a hard time wondering about the future of the McDonald Forest race. You've all given many hours helping out at the race. That's the reason it's been such a great run. But yesterday after work, I started running up Extendo. There's still some dirt left on the trail. Others need to be patched up with gravel. And it's all up to you, Ken. You'd be a good race director, but I'm up for new adventures, and life goes on, and change is good. Don't feel obligated to keep the race alive. I had a meeting with the Research Forest on Tuesday. I'm on that committee. I don't say much there, but I think the Research Forest would just like to see that races go away. But they'd never tell me to quit. Anyone else, I'm not so sure. But if they're all concerned about the route, this is all. And then about October of that same year, after the race was in May, he started telling us about how he wanted the course to be for the next year. Said, well, they're concerned about Extendo. They're not going to let you go up. What do you know? They're nitpicking over all this stuff, but they're nitpicking over nothing, especially to state that they're concerned about science. They might just be exerting their control to keep you guys in line. But hell, science is important while they clear cut the hell out of the forest. And this is what I fear. Woe is me. You better get your friends to enter the 15K, or Jan and I are going to have to cough up about $1,500 to cover the expenses we already have. I should have seen the writing on the wall. You all tell me how popular these races are, so I didn't know. But short distance running, distance running is dead. And there are very few runners that can actually finish a 15K anymore. Now we have 270 people signed up for the MAC in March.
Did I really write that?
That's why we save them.
I thought somebody else wrote it.
So then Scott wrote Clem after Scott was helping out and said, Clem, I know you're not interested in being an RD anymore, but are you interested in being a consultant for us? We're assuming that you sent me an email asking how the race was going, that you might want to be a consultant. I told Ken I'd try not to bother you with emails and leave that up to him. So then Clem wrote back, yeah, Scott, I can consult, but I'm out of the loop for race directing. It's an all-consuming job. I know most people think I'm full of shit. In the last week, I made 4 trips to the bank. I went to Eugene. I went to blah, blah, blah. Lots of busy work. This is right before the 15K. I have not run this week. I just received a lot of satisfaction knowing what I've done for the past 10 years, but I'm done. I watched Jan already spend at least 25 hours over the past 3 weeks just making cookies. She's up to 35 dozen, but she's still going strong. I know you all will divide this work up. Nothing by itself is that hard of a job. It's a lot of stuff. You'll always have something to do. So I'm warning you all. Hang in there. There's another one. So he's helping us out with the course. I just want to read the one last one here. Jane was right. This is a little too much. But hopefully you're enjoying it. Okay, here's one right before the first race that Scott and I did, 2006. Clem says, well, Scott, I can pick up coffee at 6 a.m. I can get out there early, help out before the run. I can course marshal for the early starters at Kronmiller Lake. One year I had to help Penny because she went back to the cabin and didn't know where to go. I'm going to try and talk Jan into sweeping the course from Chip Ross Park back to the saddle. Let me work on her tonight. She can easily hike as fast as the last runner. She can easily go that far, but she just might be shy, thinking that it's a really responsible job. She's also going to make some batches of soup. I'll be in charge of flagging the course from blah, blah, blah. So then I replied back, Clem, I hate to be so negative, but you're supposed to be enjoying the race. And what you do with your own time is just nuts, but don't talk Jan into doing anything. One thing I really don't want you to do is to go to Kronmiller Lake and course marshal. Hang out in the cabin before the race starts, schmooze with the runners. I need your diplomatic social skills in the cabin more than I need course marshaling. Greet everybody and appreciate the kind words about all you've done for the race, and enjoy that time. So then the last funny part is this guy. There's this guy who runs the race every year, and he came up to me and brought his registration to the house late. He always registers late, and then he always asks if he can have the $10 late fee removed. And I almost caused my treasurer a heart attack by asking him if we could have his $10 back. And he's a 10-time finisher, So he told me, after I told him he had to pay the late fee, then he he told me he was going to be a 10-time finisher, and I started feeling guilty about collecting his $10. And my wife Lynn gave me hell for it. She said Clem would have never charged a $10 fee. And so that's what I wrote Clem, and then Clem wrote back and he said, Ken, those kind of things are why I'm sitting in my office coughing my head off. This guy waited every year. So good. Last one is, he's talking about when we did the memorial for Scott McQueenie, and he says, I don't think the OSU Forestry Club wants to honor somebody with a plaque unless it was some well-known forester or a teacher or somebody who's a big donor to the College of Forestry. They're probably trying to be cooperative, but they wish you'd never asked. At their meetings, they often talked about memorial benches and how many have gone into disrepair and how the original donors don't maintain them or think that the research forest should maintain them. And he goes on. But then he says, when I hopefully die along the trail, if a few of my running friends can join Paul and Amy and take my ashes up to the top of some mountain or along some beautiful river and let them blow in the wind, then they can all go have a bunch of microbrews, and that's it.
Thank you very much.
Woohoo!
I got to look at this 5 times a week for 20 years. I don't deserve it, but anyway.
Yeah, you did.
I appreciate it.
Bill's going to say one more thing.
Yeah. The instigator for this is your co-race director for the Condor, Gabrielle, along with Ken, John, and if I'm missing someone, and Jan, and
Lobo.
and Frank, and your lovely wife. They're the conspirators.
I just had to keep it a secret. They did it.
So thank you all, and this is a wonderful
Well,
group.
thank you.
And actually, it's not, I mean, that was kind of our committee, the team,
Your
the
committee,
people that we
right.
mentioned, but it's basically every one of us did everything, and everyone is behind it. So, thank you, Clem.
Well, thank you. And just one thing I just want to say, I was mentioning to Ramon coming up just today, because I gab a little bit. We were talking about those trails in the maze. It's really Sonder that got me going.
Yes, yes.
You know, wherever he is. Did he take off? There he is. You know, Sonder and I, you know, we brainstormed this thing. And he's doing it really. If I didn't have him figuring things out, it never happened.
Could we get a picture of you two on that bench?
Let's get everybody up for a big group picture too.
Yeah, get everybody out in the front.
We're gonna do everything behind.